Hello and welcome back to our online English class. Today we are going to study lessons C and D. And I briefly introduced lesson C in the last lesson, in the last video. And we are going to go over past continuous and simple past. We already learned past continuous in lesson B, but I mentioned that we often use past continuous together with the simple past tense. So let's take a look at the grammar lesson. Okay? Oops, let me open the file here. Okay, here we go.
Unit 9, Lesson C. Past continuous and simple past. Adverb clauses with when and while. Watch and listen. Past continuous and simple past. Adverb clauses with when. Use when to begin an adverb clause to show that one past action interrupted another past action.
He was painting. Then it began to rain. He was painting when it began to rain.
Past continuous and simple past. Adverb clauses with when. Use the past continuous for the action that was happening before the interruption. Use when with the simple past for the action that interrupted. Subject plus past continuous plus when plus noun plus simple past.
She was sleeping when the phone rang.
Past continuous and simple past. Adverb clauses with when. Use a comma when the when clause is at the beginning of the sentence. Remember to pause at the comma when reading aloud or speaking. When plus noun plus simple past plus subject plus past continuous.
When the phone rang, she was sleeping.
She was cooking when the fire started. When the fire started, she was cooking.
They were talking when he arrived. When he arrived, they were talking.
He was walking when he dropped his wallet. When he dropped his wallet, he was walking.
Check your understanding. Look at the picture. Complete the sentence. Use the verbs in parentheses.
She was cooking when the fire started. When the fire started, she was cooking.
They were talking when he arrived. When he arrived, they were talking.
He was walking when he dropped his wallet. When he dropped his wallet, he was walking.
Okay, oops, sorry. Okay, let me go back to the video. I'm sorry about that.
Watch and listen. Past continuous and simple past. Adverb clauses with while. Use while with the past continuous to show the action that was happening before the interruption.
It began to rain while he was painting.
The guests arrived while Tom and Sarah were cooking.
Past continuous and simple past. Adverb clauses with while. Use the simple past for the action that interrupted. Use while with the past continuous for the action that was happening before the interruption. Subject plus simple past plus while plus the subject plus past continuous.
She fell asleep while she was driving.
Past continuous and simple past. Adverb clauses with while. Use a comma when the while clause is at the beginning of the sentence. Remember to pause at the comma when reading aloud or speaking. While plus the subject plus the past continuous plus the subject plus simple past.
While she was sleeping, the phone rang.
The fire started while she was cooking. While she was cooking, the fire started.
He arrived while they were talking. While they were talking, he arrived.
He dropped his wallet while he was walking. While he was walking, he dropped his wallet.
Check your understanding. Look at the picture. Complete the sentence.
The fire started while she was cooking. While she was cooking, the fire started.
He arrived while they were talking. While they were talking, he arrived.
He dropped his wallet while he was walking. While he was walking, he dropped his wallet.
Let's review. Use when or while to begin an adverb clause to show that one past action interrupted another past action. Use when with the simple past for the action that interrupted.
Maxine and Joel were sleeping when the fire started. When the fire started, Maxine and Joel were sleeping.
Use while with the past continuous to show the action that was happening before the interruption.
A fire started in the kitchen while Maxine and Joel were sleeping. While Maxine and Joel were sleeping, a fire started in the kitchen.
Okay, so let's go back to our book and let's look at exercise 2, practice. Okay, so for this activity, it says, complete the sentences. Use the past continuous or simple past. So it says, first, look at the sentence and decide which past action was interrupted. So that means you will see two past actions. Of course, one of them is past continuous. So one activity is ongoing, and then one activity interrupted the ongoing activity. Okay, so I know the grammar lesson might have been a little confusing, but it's simple to think about it this way. So when we use while, we use it with an ongoing activity, a continuous activity. So while is usually used with something that's still going on, or like a process. So Dad was working in the garden. So this is past, but it was a process. It was ongoing. So while Dad was working in the garden, so that's why we use while with the past continuous. And then while this was happening, something interrupted him. And it's this one. A thief stole his car. So you can see this is just simple past tense. So this is the activity or action that interrupted the ongoing activity. Okay, so we can see that we put number 1 with the continuous activity or past continuous, and then we put number 2 with the past tense activity, the activity that interrupted the ongoing activity. Okay, so let's do number 2 together. Okay, so you can see the verb is eat, and then this one is go off. So if you look at these two verbs, one can be a continuous activity, and then one is a sudden activity, an interruption. So if you look here, it says the fire alarm suddenly. So this is a big hint, suddenly. So that means that it's the activity that interrupted the ongoing activity. So we can use this go off as past tense. So past tense is went off. Okay, and if you remember, go off means to make a sudden sound. So alarms can go off. Let's see, what else? Your phone can go off if somebody calls you. And then eating is the ongoing activity. So we can say, I was eating lunch when the fire alarm suddenly went off. So as you can see here, we use when with the past tense or one-time activity, not the ongoing activity. So again, we use while with the continuous activity, and we use when with the sudden or one-time or just the one moment activity. So I want you to go ahead and take a look at the rest of the sentences, and when you're, oh, actually I forgot to mention here. So I was eating lunch. This is the continuous activity. So we can put number 1 here, and then the fire alarm suddenly went off. We can put number 2 here because this is the action that interrupted eating lunch. Okay, so you can pause the video and continue when you are finished. Okay, so let me play the answers.
Page 114, exercise 2A. 1.
While Dad was working in the garden, a thief stole his car.
2.
I was eating lunch when the fire alarm suddenly went off.
3.
Ali fell off a ladder while he was painting the ceiling.
Okay, so for this sentence, number 1 is while he was painting the ceiling, because this activity was already happening, and then Ali fell off a ladder. This activity interrupted this activity. So we can put number 2 for this sentence, or this part. Ali fell off a ladder. That's number 2. Okay, and this is a hint. While is the verb that while is the adverb we use for the continuous activity. Okay, let's keep going.
4. When the earthquake started, the students were taking a test.
Okay, so when the earthquake started is the activity that interrupted this activity. So we can put number 1 here, and then the students were taking a test. We can put, oh, I'm sorry, did I say number 1? I meant we can put number 2 here, and then the students were taking a test. This is number 1 because this is the continuous activity that was already happening.
5.
I was making a right turn when another car hit the back of my car.
Okay, so I was making a right turn. This is the ongoing activity, so we put number 1 here, and another car hit the back of my car. This is the interruption, so this is number 2.
6.
While we were camping, it suddenly began to rain.
Okay, so while we were camping, this is the ongoing activity, the continuous activity, so this is number 1. It suddenly began to rain, so this is the interruption, number 2.
7.
Mr. and Mrs. Gomez were jogging in the park when a dog began to chase them.
Okay, so Mr. and Mrs. Gomez were jogging in the park. This is the continuous activity, so number 1. when a dog began to chase them. This is the interruption, number 2.
8. While Diana was working outside, a stranger drove up to her house.
Okay, so while Diana was working outside, this is the ongoing continuous activity. So number 1, a stranger drove up to her house. This is the interruption, number 2.
9.
While we were driving to the beach, someone broke into our garage and stole our new lawnmower.
Okay, so while we were driving to the beach, this is the continuous activity that was already happening. So number 1, someone broke into our garage and stole our new lawnmower. This is the interruption. This is number 2. Okay, so so let's look at the next page. Exercise B. Okay, so it says, talk with a partner, look at the pictures, ask and answer questions, use when or while. So as I mentioned, we use when with the past tense for the interruption, the sudden event or activity. And then we use while with the continuous or ongoing activity that was already happening when the interruption happened. Okay, so I know again it can be confusing, but with more and more practice it should become easier. So let's look at this first set of pictures. We can see that there is a woman working, and then we can see a tree. Now you can see this verb says fall. Now it makes more sense to say the tree fell because it's a sudden event. Now, the woman was working. This is a continuous event, so it makes sense to use the past continuous with this activity and past tense with this activity. So, if you look at the conversation, it says, what happened? So, this question is a past tense question. So, we can say, while the woman was working, a tree fell on her house. So, a tree fell is the past tense answer. A tree fell on her house. So if you look at this sentence at the bottom, it says, while the woman was working, a tree fell on her house. This is the same sentence as the example, but you can also use when. You can use the when clause. Now, as I mentioned, a tree fell on her house is past tense. So we need to include when with the past tense. So we can say, the woman was working when a tree fell on her house. Okay, so both of these sentences are good options, or they are possible answers. So practice making sentences with both the when clause and the while clause for each set of pictures. Okay, so take some time to work on this activity, and you can pause the video and resume when you're finished. Okay, so for number 2, of course we can ask the question, what happened? And if we use while, we can say, while the couple was driving, they ran out of gas. Remember, you have to use past tense. So again, while the couple was driving, and remember, couple is singular, so that's why you use was. But you can also say, while the man and woman were driving, they ran out of gas. Okay, so both sentences are okay. And then if we use when, we can say, the couple was driving when they ran out of gas. Or the man and woman were driving when they ran out of gas. Okay, so again, remember, use when with the past tense and while with the past continuous tense. Okay, so number 3, what happened? We can say, also the man and woman here, the man and woman were eating when they got a parking ticket. Okay, when they got a parking ticket. This is the interruption. This is the past tense, so we use when. Okay, the man and woman were eating when they got a parking ticket. And again, we can use while, and we can say, while the man and woman were eating, they got a parking ticket. Or while the couple was eating, they got a parking ticket. Okay? And then finally, number 4, what happened? We can say, while the man was cooking dinner, the lights went out. While the man was cooking dinner, the lights went out. And remember, you can use you can put the adverb clause at the end as well. So you can say, the lights went out while the man was cooking dinner. Okay? And again, we can use when with the interruption. So we can say, when the lights went out, the man was cooking dinner. Or, the man was cooking dinner when the lights went out. Okay, so you can go ahead and go to part 2 of this video lesson, part 2.